this is MJ, and in today's tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make the Desert Dunes Mosaic Pillow. For this pattern I'm using Brava worsted weight yarn in the color brindle and white, and I'm using an H hook, which is a 5mm, and this is my Furls Odyssey navy crochet hook. And you'll find links in the description box on where you can purchase these items. To complete this pillow, you'll also need an 18 by 18 inch pillow form. So the front panel of our pillow is worked in our Mosaic Chart pattern. And the back you can work either in white or you can work all in the brindle. You can decide. You just want to make sure you meet the gauge for the pattern for both your Mosaic Chart and your single crochet stitch. So if you need to alter your hook size in order to get the gauge to be equal, that's what you want to do, because we need to have the same number of rows and stitches for our front and back panel for seaming them together. So you need those panels to match up for their gauge. So I'm using the 5mm crochet hook. And for your back panel, we'll start it out because it's going to all be in the brindle color. So you will begin by chaining out 66 for your back panel. Just to keep my swatch smaller, I've just chained out a total of 18 because my stitch pattern is a multiple of 8 plus 2. So if you're altering the size of your pillow at all, you will need to chain a multiple of 8 plus 2. So the pillow that we're working on, these panels are going to be about 17.5 inches to cover the 18-inch pillow form. So now you just want to work in the back leg of the chain, which is this little back hump. You're going to work in the second chain from the hook. And as long as you haven't made these chains too tight, it should be fairly easy to work into them. Mine are a little snug here, and that's why I'm struggling. So you're just working into that back hump, and that's going to make a really nice clean edge. You're going to work all the way across, and you're going to have a total of 65 stitches. So once you've completed that and you have your 65 stitches, you're going to chain one and turn and work single crochets in every stitch across. Okay, so you're just going to continue that, and you're going to work a total. I'm not going to go through all these rows with you. You're just going to make a big square panel, and you want your panel to be about 17.5. If it's 17, that's fine, but you don't want to go any bigger than 17.5 because we want our case to be slightly smaller than the pillow form. So now when we work the front panel, we'll be working the Mosaic Chart. So you will be chaining out the same as we did for the back. So you are going to chain out 66, and I'm just going to make a smaller swatch. So I'll be chaining 18. And we're starting with our color A. Okay, and then we will work in the back leg of the second chain from the hook and work those all across. And you will have the same as you did your back panel. So you're going to have 65 stitches. I'm having less because I just want to work through this to show you how the stitch pattern works out. Okay, So the stitch pattern for our mosaic pillow and blanket are the exact same. There is a little bit of a difference. I'm going to actually use the same stitch chart video for both patterns. And the only difference is how we start and end with these designs, because my blanket, I've not bordered it, so I've wanted to weave in the tails to have that nice edge, the pattern going right to the edge, which is just how I liked the look with having the sections of white. The pillow, we can do a little bit differently because we're seaming it all together. We can hide the tails. So what I want you to do is at the end of every row, you're going to chain one and cut and pull that through. And that is just going to help secure the tail a little bit more because there's no weaving going to happen. We're going to trim them and they'll be seamed inside the pillow. So how this differs also for now when we're joining, let's take color B. So every time you join, we're going to make a slip knot, put it on the hook. I'll then chain one and join to the first stitch with a single crochet. It's a little different, okay? When we're reading the chart, the first and last stitch, okay, they're always going to be a single crochet through both loops. So single crocheting in the first. So now everything else remains the same for this stitch chart pattern that we're going to work through, working through all in the back loop for row 2. And then when we get to the end, we'll chain one and cut. So I will be putting the video up to work through each of the rows that's for the blanket. So I will be crocheting over the tail and not doing the chain one at the end, but that is because I'm weaving ends for that pattern. This one, we just don't need to do that because there's no ends to weave with how we're going to assemble this pillow. So just working across the back loop of every stitch. I'm going to pop up an explanation on how we're reading the chart as we get into it. So last stitch, working a single crochet. The last of every row is work like this, and then we're going to chain one and cut. Okay, so you just have to remember that you don't need to crochet over the tails. We're going to chain one and join in with a single crochet, and we're going to chain one at the end and cut. Okay, so other than that, our stitch chart is all the same for the blanket as well. So I'm just going to pop up that video to show you how to work through the chart. Okay, so to read your mosaic chart, each row here is worked in a different color. So we're working A, B, A, B. So we're working white and brindle. A is white, B is brindle for the desert dunes patterns. So you can see every other row is worked in this alternating color pattern. So when you look at the chart, ignore the pattern that you see, ignore the different boxes or different colors, okay? You're not going to be changing color throughout a row. This is all you pay attention to for color. What you want to look at is whether we're working a single crochet in the back loop only, a drop down double crochet with an X, or a single crochet through both loops. So the beginning and end of the blanket, we'll work through both loops. So that's consistent throughout the whole pattern. Your first stitch, last stitch will both be worked as a single crochet. So row 1 is all worked here in the white. Row 2 is all worked through the back loop only in color B. Then when we get to row 3, that's when things start changing up with drop downs. So we're dropping down 2 rows below, working in the front loop. That's why we work in the back loop, so that there's that loop available. And this is what creates the pattern, because when we drop down, it covers up this row to create the pattern. So it's really simple. You still work all of this row in white. You're just either working in the back loop or doing a drop down. Okay, so let's take a look at row 3. We're going to work a single crochet in the first stitch, back loop only, and then a drop down. 3 in the back loop only, a drop down, 3 in the back loop, a drop down. As you can see, it's repetitive, which is another thing I love about Mosaic. Once you get a handle on the pattern, just it repeats itself across. So we're back to color A, and we're going to join into the first stitch with a chain 1, and we'll work a single crochet, and we'll crochet over the tail. So we're going to go in the back loop only for the first stitch, and now we're doing a drop down in the next. Okay, so here's the next stitch. Go below that stitch and you'll see the front loop. So yarn over, we're going to work a double crochet 2 rows below into that front loop. Then we do 3 in the back loop. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. So here again is that loop below this stitch, and we do a drop down. One, 2, 3, and a drop down. So now I'm coming up to the end. Drop down, single crochet in the back loop, and a single crochet in that final stitch. And then we'll chain 1. Sorry, you don't need to chain 1. You don't need to do that if you're weaving. So just cut it and then pull it through. And then you're going to have to weave these ends in over here. Okay, so for row 4, we're going to join in with a chain 1, work a single crochet through both loops, and also bringing along that tail. So now if we look at our chart, 1, 2, 3, we have 3 in the back loop. 1, 2, 3. And then our drop down, it's nice to eyeball this out. We have 3 front loops here where it's going in the center of those. And then we have 3 in the back loop. 1, 2, 3, and then we're dropping down in the center again. 1, 2, 3, drop down, 1, 2, 3, and a single crochet in the last stitch. Cut. Okay, so for row 5, now it always starts the same, so we're joining in with a slip stitch and chain 1 and a single crochet. So I won't go through that every single time, just so I can get through. We've got 14 rows to go through. Okay, so single crochet in the first. Then if we look here, we have a drop down, back loop, drop down, back loop, drop down, back loop, across like that. So this one's really repetitive, easy to remember. So drop down, back loop, drop down, back loop, drop down, back loop, and just keep repeating that across. Finished off here with a single crochet. Okay, and now we're on to row 6. Okay, row 6, we're going to work, basically here we are just repeating row 4. So we're going to work 3 in the back loop. 1, 2, 3, then a drop down, then 3, 1, 2, 3, and a drop down. Repeat that across, ending with your single crochet in the last stitch and cut. We're always ending the same as how we start, okay? Because we want that symmetrical look. We want it to begin and end the same. And this is how it's looking. You can already start to see the pattern. So I'm working row 7, single crochet in the first. 7 is a repeat here of row 3, so you can see. So we're doing back loop, drop down, back loop in the next 3, drop down, back loop next 3, etc. And definitely crocheting over those tails helps us with some weaving. So drop down, and then in the next 3 back loops. And our drop down's going between these 3 to finish off that little shape that we're making there. One, 2, 3, drop down. One, 2, 3, drop down, and then back loop, single crochet in the last stitch, okay, so now we are on to row 8. Row 8 is a repeat of 5, but in B. We're going to have a drop down. I've already worked that first single crochet, so drop down, back loop, drop down, back loop, drop down, back loop, drop down, and just repeat that. Ending there with my drop down, and then a single crochet in the last stitch. Cut. Okay, so row 9 is now a repeat of row 4, but in A. So we're going to work 3 in the back loop. Already worked that single. Then our drop down is going in between here. Work 3 in the back loop. 1, 2, 3. The next one is just going between these doubles again. Drop down. And repeat that across. So we're ending with 3, single crochet in the last. And now if you're working on the pillow, you're chaining 1 and cutting. For the blanket where we're weaving, I'm just cutting. Okay, and you can really see that pattern coming together. Okay, and row 10 is a repeat of row 3 with B. So we're going to work in the back loop. We'll do a drop down and then 3 in the back loop. 1, 2, 3, and then that drop down's going between these 3. And 1, 2, 3. One, 2, 3. Drop down, and then we'll end with a back loop and a single crochet, chain 1 and cut for the pillow and just cut for the blanket. Okay, so row 11 now is a repeat of row 5. We're going to have a drop down. Already worked the single. So we've got a drop down, back loop, drop down, back loop, and drop down. Whoops. So you're just repeating that all the way across. So drop down, back loop, drop down. So I'm ending with that drop down, single crochet in the last stitch. Okay, so now we're on to row 12. And remember, for the pillow, we're always chaining 1 and joining with that single crochet. We're not weaving the tails. But for the blanket, it's done a little different. So the stitch pattern's the same, just the start and the end is a little different. Okay, so 12 is a repeat of row 3 with B. So we are doing a single crochet in the back loop and then a drop down. Of course, we worked the first single crochet already. And then we have 3 in the back loop. 1, 2, 3, and then we're doing a drop down, 3 in the back loop, and a drop down. Okay, and repeat this across. Back loop, and you just want to cut your tails long enough for weaving. For the pillow, we don't have to do any weaving, which is awesome. Okay, so that's done. Now we're on to row 13. Row 13 is a repeat of row 4 with A. So we're going to work I worked the single crochet already. Now we'll work 3 in the back loop. And then a drop down. 3 in the back loop. And then a drop down. And you're just repeating that all the way across. So our last stitch, I've worked the 3 in the back loop and now a single crochet. And we're on to row 14, which is the final row of the repeat. And 14 is a repeat of row 5 with B. Okay, so a lot of them are just repeating themselves across. And once you get familiar with the pattern, it's really easy. You almost don't even need the chart to look at because it is so repetitive. So chain 1, work a single crochet. So then we're going to go drop down, back loop, drop down, back loop, drop down, back loop, all the way across. Okay, so just repeat that across. Okay, so I've worked that all the way across. So that is the chart for the mosaic pattern. So for the pillow, you're gonna work the mosaic pattern now, rows 3 through 14. Okay, so you're gonna work rows 15 through 73, and you're working the mosaic pattern rows 3 through 14 4 times. Then you're working rows 3 through 13 one more time. Okay. So you're gonna have your 2 panels. You're gonna have your back and your front. And you can trim. You're gonna have tails on both sides. And you're gonna just trim these tails. You're gonna make them shorter. They don't need to be so long. They're gonna get sandwiched in between the case. Now I'm gonna use brindle for the slip stitch border. So you can join up here in any stitch. And you're just going to slip stitch across to the corner. And then when you get to the corner, you're going to work a chain 2. And if you look down your rows, you're going to see a white row, brindle row, white row, so A, B, etc. You want to slip stitch into each of those rows. So just make sure that you get a slip stitch through each of them. You're going to do that all the way. You're going to go make your chain 2 in the corner, work all the way across the bottom, up the side and back, and then I'll meet you up to join. And to do your seamless join, it's really simple. You're just going to cut your yarn, pull it through, take your yarn needle, you're going to go under both loops of the first stitch. Then you're going to go through the center of the last stitch, going under only that back loop. And this is basically made a faux stitch, so it completely seamlessly joins this. You can just knot them because it'll all be hidden. Knot and trim. Can then trim them. And now what I'm going to do is I have a completed tutorial showing the Surfside pillow, which is the same way that you're going to join, other than the fact the pillow size is a little bit bigger. It's a little different mosaic pattern, but the joining is going to be the exact same. So I am going to pop up that video to show you how to finish off the pillow and add some tassels to the corners. Okay, so now we are going to put the pillowcases together. So what you're going to want to do, we want the right side down against the table and the right side facing up. So we have wrong sides together, okay? Now what we're going to do is just sandwich all of our little tails inside. I'm going to go to the chain 2 spaces because I think that's the easiest place for us to join. Okay, let's just put a slip knot on the hook. And I've also dropped down to my G plus hook. Okay, so my 4.5 millimeter. So I'm going to go through the chain 2, both pieces, and we're going to pull through and make a single crochet. Okay, so now you need to find the first slip stitch. Okay, we're going to go through the back loop and the closest loop here, the other back loop, the stitches. So you find back loop here, and then you're grabbing the one that's closest to us on that side. Okay, we're going to close up this cover. So it's just a little slow. Pillow's going to have a nice edge here. And you could also do this in white if you would prefer, but I think I like it in the gray. So that's all we're doing, and you're just going to keep pushing in your tails to just hide them inside. Now when you're at the corner, you just want to add 3 single crochet in the chain space and keep going. And one thing I wanted to make sure I mentioned, when you're lining these up, your pattern, you want to make sure your rows are going the right way, because our one side is going to be shorter than the other. So when you're crocheting it together, you want to make sure you have the right sides. So now what you want to make sure is that we seam up 3 sides, and then we can stick in our pillow and then finish closing it up. Okay, so I've worked around, I've done the 3 sides, so I have inserted the pillow inside the cover now. And really we're just doing the same thing as now we have the pillow inside. So I'm just going to continue to close up the cover all the way across. And then I'm going to just add some tassels and it's finished. Okay, so when you get to the end, you're adding 2 single crochet in the chain 2 space because we started with 1. You can then slip stitch to join. Fasten that off and I can weave in that end. Okay, so now let's finish it off with a few chunky tassels in the corner. So Now to attach it, I'm going to take my yarn needle, get one of my tails, push that through, and then we can just knot the tassel to the corner. And to finish it off, we're just going to take yarn needle, get those tails, and then you're just going to weave down through the ball. Oops, trim that up. And there you have a nice tassel. So I'll just finish my other one and attach it, and then all 4 corners will be done.